Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year for our first OnRamp session of the year. Welcome to our social system mapping OnRamp session for January 10th, 2022. For those of you who don't know us, your hosts today are me, Christine Capra, co-founder of sumApp and Greater Than the Sum, and Kara Martner, who's our producer and all-around helper in many, many ways in this community and with Greater Than the Sum. And so for those of you who are brand new to this setting, the first thing I want to do is help you get grounded in what this is so that you can decide if this is the best way for you to spend your time this morning. So first, this is about a vision and a possibility. There's this kind of mapping that we're going to refer to frequently in all of our sessions, which is called social system mapping. And we believe that this kind of mapping can help communities and change networks become self-organizing more quickly and more wisely, and can catalyze greater potential in all kinds of collective transformation initiatives. So at the highest level, what this session is, and all the sessions we do, is about leaning into that possibility and turning our vision into a reality. It's also an opportunity, an opportunity to learn about this kind of mapping, as well as to get familiar with and literate in the theory, the body of theory that supports our belief in this potential and that informs our mapping practice and that is an essential ingredient of our map mining process. It's also an opportunity to contribute your own experience and expertise to this emerging mapping practice, because it's not just about a theory, it's also about lived experience and insight into the dynamics of people working together. And lastly, it's a community of practice and field building with an intent for all of us who are part of this community to become carriers of a culture of generative transformation. So social system mapping is foundational to this community, but we're not all mappers. Some of us are here to learn mapping, others are here to inform the practice of mapping. Others are here out of curiosity about what's possible, and others are here just because of the community itself, because we feel an alignment or an affinity for each other and for one another's work. And some of us are here simply to be part of something interesting. So if you're interested in joining us for any of those or other reasons, we warmly invite you to do so. So for this particular session, which we call the OnRamp session, which happens on the second Monday of every month, one of our mappers of our community, and today it's Osnat Lustig, I'm still working on the proper pronunciation, will be sharing the social system map that she made so that you can get a glimpse into this kind of mapping. You can hear why she made it and ask her some questions. And so there will be, for those of you new, there will be follow-up emails with more information about how to get involved if you're interested, or how to get the mapping help that you need. So just look for follow-up emails. Okay, hang on a second. Who did that? Switching tools always makes me a little clunky at first. So for today's agenda, we're going to do some chat intros of all of us. Then we're going to look at Osnat's map. Then we're going to do some Q&A. And then towards the top of the hour, we will pause for announcements. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what we do, the formal session is designed to go for an hour. So at the top of the hour, if you need to jump off, of course, that's what we were hoping you'd stick around till the top of the hour. And but we do also have an optional post-session half hour for just more informal. If you still have questions and answers, you just want to chat with any of us, you can do that. So we'll stop at the top of the hour and we have a little goodbye ritual. We'll do our little goodbye ritual. And if you want to stick around, just hold on after that. So, so let's pause here and do some intros in the chat. And for starters, let's have you put your name, your pronoun, your location into the Zoom chat. Oops. Oops. Welcome, Cecilia. Cecilia, if you want to unmute yourself for just a moment and say hi to do a mic check, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Delgado. I'm from Portugal, and Well, I work with these kind of methodologies, or I will start working with this kind of methodologies on food systems. So it's I'm here to learn.
Great, welcome. Who else hasn't done a quick mic check and would like to? Let's see, Pamela, maybe. Just a quick hello is great if you want to just make sure your mic works.
Yeah, hi, thank you.
Hi, welcome. Catherine, what about you? Do you want to do a quick mic check?
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I can't wait to see what Osnat's got in store for us.
And I'll get to more mic checks in a moment, but if you put your name, location, and pronoun, if you wanted to do all those three into the chat, go ahead and put, we'd like to hear about one or read about one primary network that you're part of or working with, so that we can get a sense of the work you're doing. And let's see, Natalia, did you mic check?
Hi, it's Natalia here. Yeah, I am located in Seattle area, and I am a coach. So I guess I am a part of a coaching network.
Cool.
I'm really curious. I'm here because of I'm Osnat's friend, and I'm really curious to learn more and to see what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay, and then lastly, what brings you here today? You put that in the chat. All of this is very helpful for us to have a sense of who else is present, one another's work, what they need, what you need from us. So have you go ahead and put that in. And I'm reading. I hope you're all reading what each other's writing as well as inputting. Cool. So very much systems thinking, education focused, transfer, I mean, not systems thinking, but system change. Okay, it's wonderful. So just this is a super high level. The only instructional piece I'm going to do is just for those of you who are not familiar with social system mapping, there are two, just the technological piece is very simple, is simply that there are two different tools that we're using when we make a social system map. We've designed it so that it looks like everything is integrated in one tool. So if you're seeing a map, it might look like one tool, but just because I see that it can be confusing for people, I just like to spell out that we have sumApp, which is the tool that my partner and I designed and support and continue to develop, which is designed to be a data gathering tool to do this kind of mapping. So sumApp is like a very specialized survey tool for networks, to find out interpersonal relationships and other systemic elements that are going on in a specific network. So it's not like a social networking tool like Twitter or Facebook. It's much more specific and much more custom. And so Osnat has a sumApp account and set the survey and all the questions up according to the specifics of her context. But so and sumApp is designed to be really user-friendly for network members to share their data, share their information. So we gather the data in sumApp, and then the data gets behind the scenes, it gets plugged into Kumu automatically. So there's a live link. Kumu is a data visualization platform that visualizes graph networks. Graph networks are anytime you see dots and lines, that's technically a graph. I mean, a graph visualization. Anyway, they call it a graph in math. But so anytime you see those dots and lines, Kumu is a tool designed to visualize those dots and lines and be very interactive. So the data goes from sumApp into Kumu. So Osnat has to work in two environments. And then the Kumu map gets embedded back into a tab in sumApp so that the map members don't have to deal with two environments. They only have to deal with one, the one where they input their data, and then they can also see the map in that same environment, so that it's a smooth experience for the end user. But that makes it that people need us to spell out that there's actually two tools. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand it over to Osnat Lustig, who is going to share her map with us today, and I will let you introduce yourself if that's okay, Osnat.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. I think I don't have to say anything anymore because you said it all, but just in case. So I am Osnat Lustig. I am mostly a participant of this community of practice out of sheer curiosity and then finding some utility for expanding my horizons. When I'm not doing that, I help people transition into retirement. And as such, I am a member of the Retirement Coaches Association. And let me tell you a little bit, just a couple of words about what is the Retirement Coaches Association. It was founded by an incredible guy named Bob Laura, and he's a self-described retirement activist with all the energy that goes behind it. And he's committed to changing the way people think and prepare for every aspect of retirement. And his objective is simple, is help people create a no regret retirement plan. Some of you here are probably close to retirement or maybe have retired and you know some of the challenges. So you can see that this is, if you always wish that somebody helped you, there are people who can help. And like Bob, but all the other members of, we call it RCA for short, because it's a mouthful to say Retirement Coaches Association. So from now on, I'm going to refer to it as RCA. All of the other members are deeply committed to this vision, but they come from different backgrounds. It's hard to create a cohesion there, but there is because they have a shared purpose. But they're financial advisors, former executives, life and career coaches, professionals, and also post-career individuals that have gone through the experience themselves. I probably can tick about 3 or 4 of those. And many of them have gone through formal retirement coach training that helps them integrate the skill and the purpose. So the idea for this map was born during the 2nd annual conference of the RCA in 2018. And I was there, it was my first conference, and the energy in the room and the diversity in the room just was sticking out as an opportunity for more connections, and the shared purpose was just infused in everything that was happening there. And I knew that there was a map already because I modeled it after the map for the Liberating Structure Global Gathering of 2019 that Jim Best created. And I know Jim Best from Liberating Structures. So I asked him, how do I do it? And he'll help me through the process, both as a mentor and as a technical advisor. And what I'm going to show you in a minute or so is what came out of this. And he made it so easy, and I wish I could thank him here again in person, but he's not here. So I wanted this map to be both useful and also reflect the experience that I witnessed during that conference. And I was determined to complete this before the following conference, so I can also introduce it in the conference and also have some seed members in it, so it will also already look like it's, hey, it's a map, why not join it? So I introduced it about 3 months before the conference, and I managed to get probably about 40 people on the map. So when I showed it in the conference, people say, wow, this is something I did not know about, and the number jumped to 70. So and how did I populate it? So I definitely had my own ideas of what should be there, because I already saw the map of the global gathering of liberating structures, but I also wanted to know what are the specifics that members wanted to know. So I sent just a Google form survey to all the people, so it was about 100, to ask what is interesting for them, what would they like to learn, what can they teach. Just basically, this map is built essentially around skill and purpose. And and people's assets as a whole. So based on the survey, I built the survey in sumApp, which is very easy to do if you've never done this before, and I highly recommend it. But it's like building a PowerPoint. You just drag and drop and put questions and edit them as you need. And as Christine said, sumApp is used for the data gathering and the data management, and Kumu, which thankfully I was familiar with before, is used to visualize it. So you can work in both platforms and create something really fabulous. Some people can create really fabulous stuff. So what I want to show you, this is the time for screen share. What I want to show you is some of the things that I came up with. And where are we? Okay. Share. Hold on. Just find what I want to share. First, I want to share with you the map. I'm just going to minimize you. Move stuff away. Okay. This is the map. This is what you see when you get into, when you click on wherever you are that takes you to the map. And I'll explain why I left that halo on the side. But right now, if you look at the map, it's a giant hairball of people and yeah, and the connections they have, and you can sort it by all kinds of aspects. You can sort it by location. You can sort it by interest. You can sort it by what do I want to teach, and you can sort it by what do I want to learn. And then and you can also put some keyword here. So if I put the word finance, I told you that there are a lot of financial advisors there. All the people that put the word finance in their profile are going to show up, and you can click on them and see what you have in common. But how do we get to this information? Yeah. I need to move this somewhere where it doesn't block anything. Okay. So I'm going to use me just because of privacy. Here I am. This is me with my beautiful picture. There's a little postage stamp brief on what I do, and I got to this because I filled in the survey. I put really strict instructions, very detailed instructions on the first page when you get into the survey. I put all kinds of links to a help box, a short demo animation like 45 seconds, and I also recorded a session with the members, a half-an-hour session where we went through how to use the map and what are the benefits, and some testimonials there. Then I put my picture and a little brief thing that appears under my postage stamp, and I answered the survey. So in the survey, there are ways to connect with me. There are ways to my website, and I'll explain in a second why is it so important for me to have all these things. Then some interests, maybe some hot topics that are not listed in the interest, and things that that I can teach. I know enough about them. And the same list, things that I want to learn. And finally, I made sure that everybody has some kind of an aspiration, because that was mandatory because they're members and they should know why they're there. Then the next thing is I created connections. So for me, I'm connected with a lot of people because I know them through the map and through other things. Some people did not do it, but I can choose how well I know a person 3 ways. And finally, once I did all of this, I can go to the map. So here's the map again, and here is my profile. So you can see that it's not as long because it has only the things that were important that I chose to highlight. I do have some hot topics. I have some interests. I have skills that I can teach and skills that I can learn, and people can know how to contact me. And in a way, I promote it as a bigger than life business card, but more than that, even though it is not it's not dynamic, it's passive, but this is a way to tell more about yourself if you can't meet the people face to face, and this is also how to find people that share your interests. I'm not going to go through all the buttons, but I can show if I choose a person. So in this case, it's me. These are all the people that I have connections with. Some of them cited me as a connection. It's a double arrow, and some of them I'm just connected to them. And I can also see who they're connected to. So that becomes a little bit more, obviously people are connected to a lot of other people. But if I only look at the people that I'm connected with, I can, with confidence, go to them and ask for help or ask for advice or connect with them in any other, offer to work on a project together. And we have done stuff like this before. Most of the people are, before that, I'm going to say something else here. Okay, this is what I wanted to show you. I know there's an option for people to choose to be on the map or not, but I didn't give them the option. Anybody who joins the RCA goes on the map. They get an invitation and they can fill in the profile and put some contacts. As you can see, the people in the center created contact with others, and this is why they are connected to the hairball. The people on the peripheries either did not mark any contacts, so they stay on the peripheries, or did not complete their profile. And one of the things that I say to people, to be in the game, you have to create connections. So otherwise, you just stay there on the sidelines and watch all the happening stuff in the center. I know it's kind of as a public shaming, but it seems to work sometimes. Okay. So as I mentioned before that one of the challenges is that many of the people in this retirement in the RCA are not, they're what we call technical naive. So I created all kinds of help stuff to help them. And just in case, and that case happens more than once, there's a help email, and it goes to my mail. It's the map4rca@gmail.com, and people can call in with questions, and they do sometimes. One of the challenges is to keep it live in the minds of people, that it's not a one shot, that is something that they can go back and revisit. So I promote it in other than the automatic emails, which people probably delete. I also remind it in our monthly calls and in the newsletter. And I always solicit some preemptive testimonials. And this morning I found an article by one of the people on the map in one of the big newsletters out there, and I sent it to everybody and said, hey, and if you want to connect her, she's on the map, and here's how you get there. So it needs some pending and and care. But otherwise, it will just be a bunch of dots on a screen. And so I just want to list a few challenges that I have. So far, I sent 169 invitations. I started with about 70. Some people open it and never go and complete the profile. So far, I have 82 profiles created from 68 different locations around the world. Most of them are from the US. So though some of these people on the margins have completed the profile, some of them did not. So they'll, until they do so, they'll forever stay there. One of the reasons people don't click on new connections because we have our conferences in the last couple of years online, and it's more difficult to create connections. There's nothing like a face-to-face connection. And the other thing is that people usually don't go back to the map to update their information. Some of them publish books and things like this, and they don't update the information, so we don't know about that. As Christine described, the social system map is a place to discover what we have in common that could lead to potential relationships, but it requires, as you probably gathered already, a lot of agency from the members of that map to discover what are the potential futures that are hidden inside. So it is an inspiring possibility, and you have to act on it. Because right now, even with all the emails and it's just another tool or another place to send your attention to, it competes with all the dynamics that people live in their own lives. So I see potential. I have not, I'm going to stop share at this point. I have not spent a whole bunch of time promoting it and coming up with new ideas of how to engage people as I could have. But I can see a lot of self-organizing there. I can envision recruiting some member to start a campaign to contact other members, to create some movement within the map, to tell other people how they found them, and to create some more interest and send people back into the map to be, to actually create all those connections that it holds, all this potential it has in it. And then it has, if we do this, and I will do it sometime maybe this year, if we do this, then it demonstrates the power of building something new from all this wealth of knowledge and information that is offered there. One of the things that I wish I had, and this is it's something that makes it difficult for me to know how people actually engage with the map, is some kind of analytics of knowing how, if somebody visits, how often did they update, what is the status. For me right now, it's an enigma unless I go member by member and have some kind of a before and after or intermediate snapshot of them. And I have not done that. I can only look at totals of before and after, and that's about it. So I wish there was some way of doing some kind of an analytics there. And that's it.
I was just writing down analytics on my notepad.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Osnat. That's great. Question. So now we'll spend another 20 minutes, roughly 25 minutes, question and answers. And yeah, so what questions and just as a cultural norm, which we're getting the habit of, but I'm just going to call it out, is to let the new people start the questioning, make space for the people who are less familiar with this, and then the more advanced people, the more experienced people, once the new people feel satisfied, we can dig in a little more because we have access to each other. So you can always follow up with Osnat on your own. And And the purpose of the session is to get the newbies questions. So not to put pressure on the new people. And if you don't have questions, just don't feel obliged to, but we'll just give some space for you to start. Go ahead, Catherine.
So Osnat, I was wondering if there is a place for the hot topics in the map, or do those just stay in the database in some way?
Well, when you open a person's profile, so if you click on them, their profile appears on the left window, and if they have any hot topics, it will be listed there. Otherwise, I have, I don't know, I can't remember, like 10 different general interests that cover, most of the stuff that I heard people are interested in. But some people have, like one of my hot topics is end of life planning. And it is not something that is listed in in the general interests, because not everybody's interested in this. So I leave it as an individual thing. Otherwise, it will be a lot of stuff to sift through.
And I was wondering if you had done any follow-up to the people in the Halo to encourage them to come back into the map.
So some of the people, as I said, some of the people filled the profile, but did not create any connections. So they stay there in the Halo, lonely, floating. And the people who did not, and actually there are, I don't know, about 70 people, I would say. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot. The map doesn't look like a lot, but the dots really add up. 70 people did not create a profile. And I send probably every 3 months, I send a reminder, and there you can do a kind of a standard reminder. It'll go to everybody, or only to the people who didn't start or whatever. You could do stuff like that. And people get so many emails. I think that it requires a lot more attention, or personal attention. And I can tell you, there's some people there that every time they see me, they in the conferences, they hide their face with shame and say, "Oh my God, I promised you I'll do this, and I didn't do it." And I said, it's not a problem, it's not homework, but it's nice to do it for these reasons. But yeah, I mean, you have to want it to be in it.
I'm going to just piggyback on that a little bit, just to let you know about, so this question of keeping, like, getting the people in the Halo more connected and keeping the map up to date is definitely the sort of the leading edge of our community of practices exploration right now. And so one of the things that we're doing is, and Joe is working on this, and Mary's working on this, and some other people who aren't in this meeting, we're working on figuring out, like, best practice, a sort of a best practices thing for how to make the iterative potential of a social system map, how to, like, operationalize that, so that we're not just sending out email blasts every 3 months that everybody deletes, but that we're actually sort of building community building into keeping the map up to date, and finding ways of really engaging people with it more. So that if that's a piece of the puzzle for you, I would encourage you to either, let us know, and you can help us think about that or implement that, or at least pay attention and notice that we might be starting to do some of that with you, because you're this universe is our test case to try it out on. And so as you start to hear from us, or start to see more things going on, then that's our experiment in trying to figure out how to do this better. And as a last piece to say on top of that, before I go back to questions, Kara is going to put a link so that in the chat, so those of you who aren't already on our community of practice map and who want to, even from the sidelines, watch how we begin to operationalize this iterative potential, putting yourself on the map is the first thing you can do for that. Okay, so Amanda, looks like you have your hand up. Thanks for using your hands, guys. Go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Amanda Sheedy in the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka in Montreal. Sorry for joining late. I feel like my question may point to some context. I was missing the context piece of your Kumu map, but I guess, yeah, is very much building on what you just said, Christine. Like, I'm just curious. I built a Kumu map maybe 5 years ago, and it was, with the vision of having it be this sort of tool that a community could use, and it just never came to life, right? And it never got to that point where it was something that people turned to find other people or organizations. And I guess my question back to you, Osnat, is that, is there a living and breathing community that exists aside from the virtual Kumu map that you kind of bring together and do things with aside from the map? Like how does the map live in that community?
So as you said, the map lives in the community. The map is the map of the membership of the Retirement Coaches Association.
Okay.
And it created for the RCA and the RCA was not created from the map. So it already lives in the community that has a newsletter and monthly calls and special events and conference and things like this. This is just a place where if you didn't get to talk with somebody and you wondered who in this community that is getting larger and larger, who is it that is interested in something that you're interested in and you want to connect with them, your shared point is the fact that you're members and you can find them on the map. So that's it's not a territory, but it is a place to find people anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And just a quick follow-up question to that, Osnat, have you ever evaluated it? Like, have you ever issued a survey about how people are using it or whether they find it useful or any of these things?
So I said something before, you might have missed it. A lot of the people there come from many different backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
and their shared purpose is retirement transitions. Many of them are technical naives. I love this term. They see something that you have to do control alt something, and then they just go away immediately. So I did in order to help people start, I created a 45-second animated step-by-step how to get into that. And then I also had one session that I recorded with people telling them, showing them how to use the map and asking them about how they've used the map and how they might use the map. So I have that edited down to half an hour if somebody wants to watch. But, I mean, this is not, you can live without the map. It's not essential. It's just something that is one extra thing that keeps you connected to a larger community in a way that you cannot do in virtually in any other way other than meeting them in person.
I want to just tag one quick question, Amanda, for you. When you said you made a map in Kumu 5 years ago, did you use sumApp or did you gather your data in some other way?
We gathered it through a Google survey.
Okay, so just in social system mapping, we're using sumApp as the data gathering tool, which you may have missed, but sumApp is designed to gather data iteratively and make the ask very low and make it very user-friendly. So it's much more manageable both for the mapper and for the users to use sumApp than it is to use there's no other kind of survey tool that matches sumApp in terms of gathering the data. So if so just the technical piece is much easier than if you use sumApp, is much easier than when you experience this. But that doesn't, as we just said, the social process piece, the engagement piece is the bigger puzzle at the moment. And I think we're all making progress, and I'm excited to hear about what Osnat has done. But I just wanted to point that out, that technical piece, if you're using sumApp, is a whole different universe than using other tools. Pamela, see your hand up.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Good to be here, but I'm going to have to leave in just a few minutes. But so before I ask my question, is this being taped?
Yeah.
So if I ask my question and I'm not here to get answers or feedback from the group, I can tune in. Okay. Thank you for that presentation, Osnat. And one of the things that sort of stuck out to me was your concern about what the value of the map turns out to be in a practical level. And so two questions I have are, given the amount of work that is put into the making of the map and getting all the data together, is that counterbalanced by the value that you ultimately get from having the map and the tool there? And the other question is, who most benefits from the map? It's unclear to me whether or not it's mainly benefiting the creator of the map or the contributors to the map. That's enough for starters. Thanks.
You know, as I said, for the users of the map, the more you put in, the more you get out of it. That's the only thing that's, when I said that it requires agency and self-organizing, it really is it. It's, I'm serving you the meal and you can eat it or not. And the amount of work, so, you know, it depends on your motivation and personality and whatever. I really enjoyed doing this because it was a project, and I decided that I was really interested in seeing how it works, so I did it. But the post-op of this is not a lot of work, but the biggest amount of work was in thinking, how do I make this enduring, and how I create a foundation that I don't need to re-edit a lot of times after this. So the type of data that I gathered, and how I presented it, and what words I use, and whatever, and where the bulk of the work, the technical aspect was, it was a little bit of work, but it wasn't much. And now all I do is I monitor the mailbox and send reminders and make sure that there's a paragraph in each gathering that reminds people of the usefulness of this. And that's it. So the benefit right now is for the people who are on the map. If they choose to use it, if they choose to create something more out of it, then it works. And if it doesn't, and I can't make them do it. They have to want to do it.
Yeah. I'm going to just tag on that a little bit again. This is a good opportunity where I feel inclined to tag things on. But this whole piece about the value of the map and how people use it. I mean, I've been doing this. I mean, I've done tons of these, and what is coming really clear to me is that the map can be a tool for us to learn about self-organizing and learn how any community can be a much more generative and transformational self-organizing system. So to understand how systems work and to help people sort of get over, you know, sort of an old school paradigm of separation and not understanding really how to collaborate well. So to the degree that you use a map for learning that and sort of documenting the shifts over time and using that and engaging it in an exploratory process of understanding your community more deeply and your community's goals and how do we move towards them, in my experience, finding ways of using the map, actively using the map, both as core members of the community, and as teaching about systems, all of the ways that it could be used, doing that interactively to build a stronger community it's not going to just happen. So if you just have a map and it just sits there, it's not going to add much value and it's not going to be worth your time. And if you, it might be interesting for the mapper. Most of the mappers are pretty, think it's fun and interesting and are pretty excited about it, but the rest of the community often isn't all that psyched, because what it represents is something we're not used to seeing, we're not used to thinking about it, and we're not used to acting at the level of what we're seeing, like that this sort of enables. And so if we're not willing to engage in that exploration, and we feel like it's a lot of work to do a map, and we're not actually wanting to use it in this ongoing collaborative, way of helping us think differently, then it probably isn't worth the time. But so that's what I'm saying, for our community right now, we have a map. It's sat there for 2 years. I have not been, I made it. I have not been super active in doing engagement around it. And so that's what we're trying to do now is we're learning how to incorporate all the potential of it into this community both as a learning process for our network, as well as an experience for anybody who's on the periphery, who's just curious to start to see how would this work and what would it take to make it valuable. So it's not an answer that it's sort of a chicken and egg answer. It's not an answer that you can say, oh, it's this valuable or it's that valuable. It's like, well, it depends on everything in the universe. So yeah. Christy.
Osnat, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your video. I appreciate that. I am always curious to see how folks make it easier for people to understand how to plug in and how to use. So I appreciate you sharing it. And along those lines, one of the challenges I personally have, and I'm just wondering if you guys, Osnat, if you have any examples or if anyone else does, and maybe Christine, this was what you were pointing to or talking about earlier. But one of the challenges I have, I'm on a few different maps, and I actually don't know how to quickly get to any of them. And I've helped to create them, or, I've been invited to be on them. So I'm coming at it from different ways. And even when we tell people in one community whose map we've made, when we invite them to join, it's always through, you can opt in through this link, or we'll send you an email to join if you haven't already signed up. Anyway, I'm just wondering if anyone has any ideas for how to make it easier for people to access the map. Is that clear? Yeah.
I can just say that my map members routinely lose their link, even though they know it's their unique link. So this is why there are two things that I have. One is the periodical reminders always contain the link. So this is something that, the care and nurturing of your map this is one of these things. And the other thing that I created the Gmail address for people to, and this is something I put in every bit of communication that goes to people in our calls and newsletter and whatever, that they can, if they want to be on the map, request a link, or if they lost their link, is to write to map4rca@gmail.com, and that's I can do. This is what I can do for them. Now I have the same problem that you do, and sometimes there are maps that I've been on. I think I'm on like 3 other maps, and I've been on them for a while, and I know I put the link in a very secure place, and for the life of me, I cannot find it anymore. And I don't even remember exactly who to call. So that is that is something to mind when you create a map.
Well, so I'm going to, from a technical perspective, there's 2 things that maybe you don't know about. One is in sumApp, you can there is a new functionality, which is called this, it's a little redundant verbally, but it's called the send me my link. So you can make a link that people put, and you can put that anywhere. And if they're in the map, so they put in their email, all they put in is their email address. And if they're in the map, it will send them an invitation with their link in it. So they can, if you put this in a really obvious place, everybody can, who's on the map can access it. It's not the same as the opt-in link. If they're not on the map, it's not going to let them in. So if you have a sort of more public facing place, so the opt-in is for people who aren't yet on the map to get on the map, and the send me my link, which anybody's welcome to come up with a better terminology for, but that's just what it was in my head. And so that's what we call it. But the send me my link, we'll just give them, if is for people who are already on the map. So that's one thing for inputting data. If when we're talking about accessing the map, you literally mean, I want to see the map, and as opposed to, I want to see the map and input my data, you can use an embed link in any site that you're willing to share. So if it's a private map, you need to know that the embed link will take you to the map. It won't take you to sumApp where you can input data. But if you're trying to share the map with, funders or whatever, you can use the embed link, but just know that using the embed link, then there's no password protection or anything. But we have not yet solved the problem of people on many maps finding the solution, but we do have a plan. I mean, I have a design in my head for how to do it. We just need about $5,000 to $10,000 to implement it. So if anybody feels really strongly and would love to help fund that feature, so that anybody can just from anywhere, go to sumApp and find all the maps they're on, which would be really great for those of us who are on, a lot of maps like me. We will build it when we can afford it, and when it has the right priority in our long-term roadmap. So that's what I can say about that. I'm going to pause here. Christy, was that okay? I'm going to just pause here and give Ben a moment to, Ben is also one of those people who is experimenting with us on how to operationalize the iterative potential in maps. So he's part of that team, but he's also at a broader level doing a broader level community building initiative, which we will figure out how to feed it into the map and move with. But this I just wanted Ben to have an opportunity to announce that. You ready?
Sure, I'm ready. And I'll plop some links into the chat too for anyone who wants to follow up. A number of you have already RSVP'd for this. So there's a conversational process that I absolutely adore, that I've been practicing for 10 years or more, based on the work of the consultant Peter Block, on how to build community that has the potential for doing transformational work. And the essence of it is that if you want to engage in systemic transformation, there's a whole set of patterns that we need to learn to shift, and we need to practice shifting those together. And the way we do that is in dialogue, in changes in language. And so it's called the 6 Conversations Process. And it's really at its heart about deepening our relationships and our connections with one another, which is part of that transformational shift, right? To understand that it all comes from the ground of relationship. And so we come together for these conversations to connect with one another, get to know one another better, meet new people, bring new people in from the margins. And the topic is really exploring together what engaging in this community practice might make possible for each of us, and how we can show up as co-owners, what the gifts are that we have to bring, what doubts and concerns we have, what commitments we're ready to make, what possibilities inspire us. And one of the outcomes, besides just the value in any of these conversations, and you can participate in as many or as few as you want, they're designed to sort of stand on their own, is valuable, but we're also coming out of this energizing a group of community stewards who really want to take ongoing responsibility for the growth and development of the community practice. We're starting these on Tuesdays. It's going to be a regular Tuesday event. Tomorrow and next week, there are 2 long calls, 2.5 hours tomorrow, 3 hours next week. They start at 11 a.m. Central Time. And then starting Tuesday the 25th, we're going to cut that down to, we've announced it as 45-minute sessions, and we're going to probably do 45 with an optional 15 for some additional questions. related to that. So you're all welcome to join us. You don't have to do the longer calls to join the shorter ones later, or do the first one to go to the second one of the longer ones. And you are encouraged to, if you get into this, to do it enough times that you go through all 6 of the conversations and even repeat them, because they deepen with each iteration. Any people have any questions? Or I'm happy to answer those. There's in the links there, you'll find more information. And I'm on Slack too, if you want to connect with me there.
Thanks, Ben. Yay. I think a number of you are already on the list planning on joining us. So let's do this. I want to see, is there anybody who is needs to leave at the top of the hour and still has a burning question that hasn't been answered? I just want to make sure that we have since we have a couple more minutes, one last opportunity to answer people's questions that can't get them answered 5 minutes from now, as opposed to right now.
I think Natalia raised her hand.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, no. Okay.
Well, in that case, if there's anyone who has to leave and is new to this and has any like last minute thoughts or what's up for you, or just reflections that you would like the rest of us to hear before you go, just feel free to do that. Otherwise, we'll just do our goodbye ritual. I'll give you a moment to see if there's anything you want to share with us. Last thoughts.
Well, I just would like to thank you. And it's a lot of food for thoughts I got today and some material to go through. And yeah, I was glad to be here today.
Good. Well, we welcome you back. We'd love to see you again. Whatever way works for you. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, then we will simply do our goodbye ritual is very simple. We just at the top of the hour, and remember, if you want to stick around and ask more questions of Osnat or anyone else who sticks around, feel free, you're welcome to do so. But for those of you who need to jump off, we're going to all unmute ourselves, and then I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then we all at the same time just give each other blessings and love and greetings for the day. So let's all do that, and then we'll see who remains after and wants to talk some more. So if you're going to join us, feel free to unmute yourself, and then 3, 2, 1. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Love you all. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. So go ahead.
Osnat, I was wondering whether you had ever at conferences, tried to do a group sort of helping people get onto the map and do that.
Well, I only had one conference that was a face-to-face.
Oh, okay.
Before the pandemic that I was able to, I had like 10 minutes, and I was able to project something on the wall, explain it. And the conferences are not thousands of people. This is a small community. Maybe there were 70 people in the room and 30 paid attention. So,
okay.
And then in the breaks, people came to me with their laptops and I helped them do it.
Okay.
So that was the hands-on. And then I got all these people say, yeah, this sounds so great. I'm going to do it as soon as I come home. They're on the Halo. And the rest of the conferences were on the last two were online. So it's not really a forum for this. I do get my 5 minutes there to do it. And I do have access to every single person to send private messages and promote and push it. But but this is not the focus. People come there to do something else. It's a side benefit. It's an accessory. And for me, it's an important accessory, but some people are just, I don't know if it comes with age or not, But I think it comes also with the business connections when you are, because you're bombarded with so much information that even the people who want to connect with a lot of people, they want to refocus their attention and their connections to a handful of people that maybe they already trust and know and want to do some projects together, and not necessarily try to increase their network because of whatever reason it is. So I recognize that. And I also recognize that most of the people in that organization are, let's say, gently over 45.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already a mindset that we do something that is cognitively manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other question I had is, it sounds like, which I understand, I've had that experience too, where I'm just given a short amount of time, but the map hasn't been integrated with the facilitation. It sounds like that's the case for you too, that the map isn't used for the content of related to the content of
the content is also, there's such a difference between a group of members and a community. Just the fact that we have a group of members, and I've seen it throughout my adult life, a group is not a community. And to create a community, there are many little communities there of people who created their own circles, whether geographical or interest-based. But I would say that 169 people that I know today are members are not necessarily a community. They have shared purpose, but they're not necessarily a community, because they go back to the moment they turn off that Zoom, they go back to their financial advisor business or coaching business or whatever business or no business. They're not necessarily a community. And I'm looking forward to see what Ben is saying in the next so many weeks of how to help groups turn into communities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, I think you had a question that you put in the chat and I made you postpone.
I really liked when you showed the Kumu map with yourself in the center and all the relationships you had in a very symmetrical looking form. And when I've done maps before, they're all over the place, okay? And I know that symmetrically you're taking some information out, because a lot of times people would show how close people are by how close the small the connection is. But I liked it because it was like very neat, and somebody could readily see how many connections you have, and they could go through the thing and find people quickly, visually, not through doing searches or anything like that. Did you create a template for that, or did you just move things around?
No, it's a feature of Kumu.
It's a focus feature, Brian.
Oh, it's a focus feature. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it to you right now. Hang on. It's so simple, but a lot of people don't use it because they don't know that it's there. And it's exactly what you're talking about. So can you see my screen? So this is me selecting Christine, and you can see that I'm selected because I have this yellow line around me, and that's customizable, the color of the line and the thickness of the line. But there are the circle, the border. But when somebody is selected, you'll see that the border changes. So you should have some visual indication that a person is selected. Let's look at Sarah's connections instead of mine. So then when someone is selected, this icon comes on. So for instance, when no one is selected, that icon's not there. And then when it's selected, then you can just go to focus, and you can either go to just focus on that person, focus on that person's first degree connections, focus on that person's second degree connections. You can even do this, like if we were to say, okay, we're going to select these two people and go down to just them. And then we're going to see, might have filtered out, but we're going to try and see who all is connected to both of them. Anyway, that's how that works. So that's the answer to that question.
All right. Actually, I use that all the time. I just didn't, I guess I forgot that it's together.
Mm.
Yeah.
Symmetrical, like I said. Okay. All right.
Yeah. You're good. Others? Well, are there other things you'd like to talk about? If there's no more connections or questions.
I just have a little thing that I've been noticing with you, Christine. The last few weeks, you use the word mine, which seems really extractive, and I'm sort of jolted each time.
I knew, you know what? I knew you were going to hate that word. And my intention was at some point to say, someone else used it in a different context. They're mining their data. And I just thought, oh, that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about getting value from a social system map. And so I decided to start playing with that idea. And I knew that you would hate it, and probably some other people would too, because it is a very extractive word. And
Literally.
literally, yes, it's an ugly word, literally. And A, I just sometimes I want to see how a word feels a few times before I decide what to do with it. And B, I wanted to invite you especially, and anyone else who hates it, to help me think of.
Oh, I was going to ask you to help me think of some other word. Yeah.
Well, if I had that in my head, I would have been using it instead. So, so if anybody, like, maybe we should just do a thesaurus search on mining and see if we can find a word.
I tried.
You tried? Didn't?
It's. I didn't use the thesaurus. I looked at definitions, which were extractive.
Yeah, they were. Yes. Yeah. Well, let's keep thinking about it. And if anybody wakes up in the middle of the night with the word, please email it to me or ping it to me in Slack as soon as it comes to you. Harvest. Harvest. Harvest is a good word, but we've been using harvest. And I think in a lot of times people use harvest to mean, what do we take? Like, what did we get from this session? And what are we taking away from this experience or this process or engagement or whatever? But this is a level deeper than harvesting. It's like, okay, now that we've harvested, how do we take that harvest and pull it back into value for the community, and not just, like harvest and leave it in the barn to rot, which is what we've been doing. But I mean, it sits in our brains, but we have not done a collective process to actually, what would that be? Like I mean, anyway, yeah. Unearth.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, maybe anyway. So, yeah, well, and I'm just thinking, if we think of harvest and we think of like grains of corn or beans, like what would we do? Unearth, or anyway. Okay, I'm moving on. But thank you, Mary. I knew you were going to comment on that at some point.
Well, looking at your transcription, I sort of change it, and then I go, no, she used that word, I'll keep it in. And then I want to change it.
I get that. Yeah. Yeah. Other comments or topics or? Thanks, Joe. Have a good afternoon. We'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you.
And Osnat, I wanted to tell you that we will be having verbal contact, if not eye-to-eye contact, with Jim Best later, and I will pass on that you commented on his help. And I didn't know that he helped you with your first map. So yeah, that was great for you to mention, because that's kind of how the community should work. Yeah, appreciated that. I'll let him know that you made that comment.
Yes.
He would have been here, but he's in the desert somewhere and he didn't have enough bandwidth. So
not surprising.
Yeah. Anything else?
You helped me get my first map going as well.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, Christine, for the opportunity, and thank you, Kara, for helping me sort things out in a So it will be a lot less confusing and more streamlined today. And thank you everybody for being the community.
I really appreciated how much you're a steward of the map, that you're sort of shepherding and holding that, which is really amazing. And I think, considering the age of the group you're working with, the engagement is notable, I think, even though we all share the same, sort of challenge, but
Yeah.
You've done well considering. Yeah.
I agree. And I think given the kind of where people are coming from in your context is also, because they're not coming from like activists, community builders, social system, change maker. They're coming from a more professional mindset. So I think it's actually pretty impressive, the engagement you've gotten, given that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of them, especially Bob, who the founder of the RCA, see themselves, in addition, I think everybody there see themselves as a retirement activist in some capacity. So that is the thing that brings everybody together. We want to change how people approach that topic and change the mindset. So this is one thing that motivated people to get into a place, to join the map, and to say, hey, I'm there too. But some people are, shy. They don't want to see their, they feel they don't have anything to say in this forum, although they do in others. So I'm letting it grow. One of the things that I didn't do is I don't give them an opportunity to opt in. In the survey, they have to click something, to choose something that I agree to be on the map. Otherwise, it's just their name. I call it the shame halo, and it's a visual graphic that has name and nothing in it. That shows that if you want to be part of it, you have to step into the circle. Otherwise, you just stay there on the margins. And I think it's visually, I think it has some kind of an impact. Maybe not.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, like your 5-minute snippets that you have. I'm thinking of how can you use them less to tell the value of the map and more to like enact the value of the map. So like I'm thinking if they are retirement activists, and so they have a certain kind of change in the broader change, not their own just I want to have a good life, but broader change in the world that they're moving towards. How can, like, in a session, how can we, like, whatever the purpose of the session is, how can you like use the map to help inform that goal, or to help, or to create some curiosity about, is there a way this map could help us move more towards that goal? Like, how could us being together, how could our relationships move us towards that goal a little better than us just being separate? So I'm thinking about, like, with Sarah Shanahan, we spent numerous times telling people how valuable the map is and telling them what they should, how important it is and what they could do with it. And then we realized that's not working. They don't care. We've said it 20 times. I mean, not that many, but then we started to think about how can we actually put a question in their head that's related both to the purpose of the network and to how the map might help move that purpose forward. And that takes a lot more work and a lot more understanding, like understanding what's the context going to be today, what's the context going to be next week. But then that I think putting curiosity in people's heads is a leverage for this.
It goes hand in hand with one of the things that I have in mind is to have a behind the curtain a few bosses that will contact people and say, "Hey, I found you on the map," and just do it this way. But here's the but: I am also involved in a lot of things. So it's just a question of how do I set aside the attention and the planning and to actually go through this and recruit all those others that I want them to play with me.
Yeah.
And like anything else, people fall in and out of activism.
Yeah. Which is exactly what we're struggling with here. Because, the reason I say, our map sat there and just has not been engaged with for 2 years is because I don't have the capacity. And so that's part of, like having that question of how can we do this together in a way that doesn't just put all the work of it on me and then I'm always central. So that's partly what we're modeling, and hopefully that gives, and so that's partly also what the 6 conversations will, I think, help us think about. So I think you'll get lots more from that. And the other thing is maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe the map is fine. Maybe it's doing all you need it to do just the way it is. And for your context, it's great. And so you just keep doing what you're doing and not worry about, making sure everybody maximizes the potential out of it and just say, this is good enough.
Yeah. It's there's so many ways to use it. But I also don't want to fight windmills.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your sharing the map and talking.
That's great.
Representing the whole thing. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for your comments, feedback, thoughts, insights.
Yeah, cool.
Community.